with red-hot stories from post-game. Interviews, analysis, defend the hour. Right here at the Growler.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of the Walkout. Paul Andrew Jr., Jay Morrison are here with you late into the night. I'm not sure what day it is, where I am, what's going on anymore, Jay. It's been like the Bengals season. It's just been a lot. There's just been a lot going on a day where the Cincinnati Bengals lose to the Los Angeles Chargers 34-27 in another wild one, this time at SoFi Stadium.
Yeah, wild, nearly historic, and then all for naught. There was so much to that game. It's gonna be hard to wrap it up in a short amount of time here, but my gosh, it was a crazy game, and it kind of encapsulated this entire Bengals season. Slow start, then you get a little bit of hope. They start playing really well, only to fail to finish at the end and left to answer the same questions that they've been answering all year long about why they can't finish, what changes are going to be made or not made. And I just, Jamar Chase has been frustrated with some of these questions in the past. You guys are the same questions every time we lose. And he sounded like he gets it now. Like, yeah, you guys are asking the same questions because we keep making you ask the same questions. We keep doing the same thing. And just a lot to unwrap with this one.
There is, and we will. Walkout presented by Cincy Shirts, our good friend at Cincy Shirts. Make sure you go to cincyshirts.com and you can put in the code GROWLERPOD, get 10% off all of your orders there. Tons of stuff up there, everything you could ever want. Cincinnati-centric, whether it be sports or otherwise. Great time to go to Cincy Shirts. Great gifts to give if you're thinking about the holidays or anything else, which is right around the corner. Also, our next live show is going to be on Thursday. It's going to be taking a Reds tilt. We're going to have Todd Frazier is going to be our guest, along with a panel with myself, C. Trent Rosecrans, and Jim Day. We're going to do my favorite game with Todd Frazier, which was going to be the 2015 Home Run Derby. We're going to talk all about that, do a rewatch it at 5 o'clock. We're going to air the Home Run Derby at 7 o'clock. We'll have the panel with Todd, and he'll do meet and greet afterwards. We'll have all our special deals that we do down at BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar down at the bank. It's going to be a great time. Really looking forward to doing that with Todd Frazier. And Bengals fans, if you're also Reds fans, you probably could use a break from talking about this team. So it might actually be a great time as the bye week is here to go and check out some Red shows. And enjoy that. And remember the good times. Remember the good times when the good things happen. Because right now, Jay, good things are not happening to this team. They're not happening to me either. For the first time ever, my computer went kaput right as I went to start writing my story in the post. All the information, everything from the locker room, everything I was ready to go do. Ready to, wiggling my fingers. I'm cracking my hand. I'm ready to go. Right. And then all of a sudden, just went to black, dead, end of days. So here I am, though, improvising. We're trying to make it work. Look, I'm like playing with the Bengals defense. Look, I know I got to be perfect. I know that this isn't ideal. This isn't how you want to win games. But here I am. We're trying to record on the phone to bring it to you because we know how important it is. And there's just so much to say. This team is crazy flawed. They continue to be. I mean, you have a defense that between the second half of the Ravens game and the first half of this game had 9 drives that included 7 touchdowns and a field goal. I mean, just epic fail to come into this huge spot in this game and lay the egg that they did in the first half. Cam Taylor-Britt gets benched again. You have just miscommunications, can't stop the bleeding, frustration everywhere. Joe Burrow looks like he's just watched 10 puppies be kicked in their heads on the sideline. I mean, it is just it was awful. And credit to him for coming back. Like there's a resilience factor to what they were doing there in the second half, and the fact they were so quickly right back in it. They did refine themselves. But then the same thing. They can't finish games. They can't find ways to win. They only find ways to lose. And add it to the list. The pile keeps growing, Jay. Gets higher and
Mhm.
higher. Add it to the inexplicable ways this team finds to lose games.
Yeah, and you thought, or I thought that they opened the game with a 3-and-out on defense, and you're like, okay, it's going to look like it did last week against Baltimore, and then it was just there was no resistance whatsoever after that, and until you get to the second half, and it was do or die time. Um, I don't know where they go from here, because you mentioned it, the Cam Taylor Britt benching seemed to be a positive, where Josh Newton was playing really well, and then DJ Turner suffers a clavicle injury, and they have to bring Cam Taylor Britt back in, and he's a big reason that the Chargers go 84 yards in 27 seconds for the game-winning touchdown at the end. That I mean, Geno Stone was a problem again. The pass rush was not there, and even Trey Hendrickson he had a half a sack, but there was nothing to really feel hope about moving forward. Yes, you see what this offense can do. You see the schedule's lighter, that maybe they can somehow get on a little run, but I don't know how with this defense. It's the same thing week after week after week.
The big observation for me was they're done hiding it, and not that they've necessarily been trying to hide the fact of where their frustrations lie. I mean, every week it feels like Joe looks more beaten down in these post game press conferences. Like he just seems like it's over, or in that moment it does. Like you can see it wearing on him, and he's less and less able to even hide it. He's plain as day, just calling it what it is. I mean, the most frustrating season of his life, and you can see why. Like, he doesn't need to go explaining it. It's obvious. I mean, his numbers in losses. I'm firing this off the top of my head right now from my story, because I don't have notes from that in front of me because my computer's dead. But I mean, the splits in losses, it's crazy. 18 touchdown passes to 2 interceptions. He's averaging 308 passing yards per game in losses. And they can't win any of them. I mean, their only wins really are against losing teams. Seem to have 3 losses or less on the season. Every time they've played a good team, they've made a bunch of good plays, but they've lost in a close game at the end. Like, outside of the Eagles game, and it is incredible that it continues to look like this, and they're just not hiding it, and that includes Jamar Chase. That includes what you saw from Trey Hendrickson. In this game, you see him yelling coming off the sideline. He swats away Zach Taylor's arm at one point when he was trying to calm him down. You have Jermaine Pratt on TV, like, dressing down Cam Taylor Britt, and then talking about that on a report on the sideline, and and just talking about how the communication, the same stuff. It's like, it can't be at this point in the season, and this stuff keeps happening. And the fact that it is, and the fact that you have that, you're getting the explosions. You're getting people airing their frustrations. You have another week of a strategically placed F-bomb, this one from T. Higgins, who just has finished. He must have said finish to me in the conversations that we were having. He must have said it 10 times. And at the end, he just said, we just gotta effing finish. Like, it's just, you can see it, and then it builds and it builds, and then Jamar Chase. We get Jamar Chase. And Jay, this is really interesting. So we're talking to him about whatever, and he's clearly frustrated, like Jamar can be, and he is always one to say his piece. He's not there to hide it. And when finish came up again, I said, "What is that? What is that to you? What does that mean to you?" He goes, basically said, "Not to me." Started talking about coaching and play calling. So I play. You need to ask Zach about that. Whoa. Okay. Why is finishing about coaching? That's Jamar Chase airing grievances about coaching, about play calling, and talking about how it was like, boy, he feels one more loss away from a true explosion. And you're just hearing this. It's happening everywhere. Like, the overflow was very much felt tonight post game.
Yeah, and so you see everybody's the anger, the frustrations going up, and And Burrow seems like he's going the other way, where if you get beat up by the other team, that's not ideal, but it's kind of what you signed up for. It's part of this league, and we've seen a lot of that from him. But he's getting beat up by the opponent, but he's getting beat down by his own team and by all this losing. And it's so morose watching him in these post-game press conferences. And it felt like this was, I'm surprised there wasn't more of a blow up. Number one, not even knowing what this game was going to look like before going into it, just if they lost, that the realization would be setting in. But then for them to do what they did and come back from 21, if they would have pulled it off, it would have been the biggest comeback in franchise history, to come all the way back like that, and then only to just piss it away at the end in such easy fashion. I'm surprised more guys didn't pop off. And then you had the complete opposite, where disclosure, I'm at home. I was not in the locker room, but Mike Petraglia tweeted out that Evan McPherson didn't talk to reporters after the game, which is just a really bad look. And
now in fairness about that, I mean, I didn't see him. I don't think he declined.
Okay.
So we had Zach Taylor afterwards for his normal press conference, and it was, SoFi is so expansive, it's so huge, and then the actual press conference room is not very as close as it should be to the locker room. So we walk all the way down to the locker room after Zach Taylor goes, ready to go in. As soon as we're getting ready to go in, who's coming out?
Yeah.
Joe Burrow's going, well, so I didn't go in. So I don't know that there were people that went in, but we all basically went back with Joe. We hiked ourselves back to the other side, and we go there, and Joe, and if you saw that or heard, I mean, he talked for a while, and we were in there for that. So by the time we got back, a ton of the locker room was cleared out, I believe, including Evan. I never saw him. Now, maybe others did, and he declined. I don't know that. It's not necessary, especially in that case where that is a lot of time after the game's over. I don't expect him to sit there and wait for us. So I don't want to put it on he bailed. It wasn't like he said no and walked away.
Okay.
And maybe he did to some others, but not to me. I never saw him in there, and we were obviously looking for him.
Yeah. And it was so, watching on TV, it was noticeable about how fast those guys got out of there. And it was weird too. Normally they walk through the tunnel and they go to TSA and get on the bus to go to the airport. They were walking across the field. So Bengals players are walking across the field. There's still fans in the stadium yelling at them and waving, and Bengals fans, Chargers fans, both. It was just really weird how fast they got out of there. So that is good context to know that Evan, maybe it was just a matter of he just got out of there in a hurry. But either way, it's something that you can see that kind of coming ahead of time, that if they lost this game, emotions are going to be raw. And I'm actually kind of surprised that there wasn't more popping off at the way that game went.
Yeah, I mean, when you come out and just don't look ready, we talked about what felt like juiceless practices during the week. It just felt like lacking of energy, and they looked like a team that went out there, and they had that first 3 and out, but the moment Harbaugh said, "Hey, let Herbert throw the ball," it was over. They had no answers, and they looked lost. And then on offense too, they have to kick a couple of field goals. The 3 and outs happened. It felt lifeless until they brought themselves back to life after halftime, and they're just so clearly losing it in the first half. I mean, just no composure. Because you're just getting blitzed, and they're getting frustrated and can't believe that that's the way things were going. And I just, this is who this team is. And this was the one that they, if you were going to get, you can continue to sit there and say all you want, like, there's still a run. I believe in this team, what is Zach Taylor going to say? I mean, he's basically just like, it's sick to have to keep going into this post game and giving these speeches up to these guys when you see them make a lot of winning plays, and we just come up one play short over and over and over again. It's inexplicable. It's unbelievable. that it continues to happen like this, but that's just it changes. It goes from being weird, it goes from being a coincidence to this is who you are. It's who you are. And that's who this team is. This team is going to be known as a team that can't finish, that wasn't really good enough, and didn't have the rest of the other stuff to make up for the fact that they weren't really good enough, specifically with what's been happening on defense.
And it's not just the defense. Just your two best players, Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, can't connect on the deep ball. And it was there. And that was stunning that happened, where he's wide open. And I can't remember now. It's after 4 a.m. here in Ohio time. It's all kind of running together. But I know that was in the fourth quarter. I don't know that it would have been a dagger at that point, because and even if you think about it, if McPherson makes both those field goals and everything else is equal, the Chargers still go down and score a game-winning touchdown in 27 seconds and win by 1 point instead of winning by 7. There's just, T had a drop, and Joe mentioned too the one he threw behind Jamar on a slant. It's guys not coming up in the biggest moments, and that's how you fail to finish.
Yes. The deep ball incompletion to Chase was at the Bengals' last drive, not counting the 18 seconds one. Yeah. With 1:10 left, a chance to throw a touchdown pass with 1:10 left, a walk-off tutty, as Jamar Chase put it to us. What not quite walk-off, but it certainly would have felt that way. And he did. He had it, and they couldn't come through on that drive and had to punt. Again, and we've talked about that a bunch, that the finishing stuff has fallen on the offense too. And that's where you get into Jamar Chase calling out play calling on that. And that is that a player who's frustrated, a player who over the course of his career has many times called out play calling when things have not gone well. I don't know. And I don't know how many people would even admit to that. Jamar's really the only one that ever says stuff like that. So I don't know what's growing there, what that is under the surface with Chase, but it certainly was interesting because it was not. I wasn't digging. I didn't even ask a question about the coaching. It was literally just what is finishing, and so for it to go to the place that he then took it and had opportunities to walk it back and chose not to do so, it felt pointed, and that's obviously. Not great, but nothing's great right now. Nothing is great with where they're at. You're in play it out time. This is going to be a team that's probably going to end up with a top 10 pick in the draft.
Yeah, as we're talking, I'm thinking about this. Okay, they're in the air right now. They're flying back. Is that just a quiet plane and people sleeping, or are there hard conversations and people, some voices being raised, and it's just they need something to spark them. I don't know where it comes from, especially going into a bye week where this is all kind of forgotten by the next time they step on the field. And yeah, it's a division game, and it's the division leader. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers when they come back. So maybe that would be the spark right there if they could win that. But just the way tonight ended, it mathematically still alive, but it really did feel like the hammer tonight, where this, as you said, this is who they are. How can you expect them to finish another 5 or 6 games when they haven't been able to do it hardly at all this year?
Not at all.
Against bad teams they have, but
yeah, well, they're 1-6 in one-score games, and the only reason they have one is because of a backdoor last-second score. The only thing that made that a one-possession game. Really, technically, you basically throw that out. They're basically 0-6 in one-score games this year. Games that really were going down to the 0-6, 0 for 0. You just flip a coin in the NFL in those games. That's what it is. And then it's just tails. Unbelievable how it can continue to go that way. But it's not totally coincidental. It's not making the plays. And let's talk about Evan McPherson. I don't know what you want him to. We talk about him leave. I don't know what you want him to say. I don't know what he's going to say, right? But you have a guy that's had a bad day, and has been having not the greatest year. I mean, now you look at the kicks that are piling up. He's missed a PAT. He's missed 2 from inside 50, and he's 3 of 7 from 50 plus. At this point, again, I'm pulling those off the top of my head from my story, trying to remember them exactly, but I believe that's the case. And it's not like we didn't see it coming. We talked about the trust that wasn't there in Baltimore to even send him out there for 50 plus. They were in a spot tonight. I mean, indoor, his favorite turf. He's told me he loves that turf more than any for kicking. And he, when he has to have it, the guy who's supposed to be good wasn't. Remember when Justin Tucker and Evan McPherson were in a battle for who the best kicker is in football, and now neither of them can make a kick? I mean, it's a weird thing, but hey, he's got to make those kicks. That's why we pay him them bucks, which is what Jamar Chase had to say. And so it's not wrong. But what do? It's not like you can pull him and go pull another kicker. You can go pull a kicker like off the wire. No, like, I mean, you just paid the guy. He's got a proven track record. I mean, it's inexplicable that you missed 2, but again, that's the word I keep coming back to because that's this whole season. It's crazy. Just add that to the list. 2 misses from 51 and 48. How differently does this whole game play out? If that's the case, a lot differently, but that's the way this thing is gone. There's always been somebody there to not make the play.
And you have to wonder or worry if it's in his head, because it's not. I don't think it's a mechanical thing. A lot of times when a kicker's struggling, you'll see even on an extra point, something routine, they just kind of squeak it inside the upright. I mean, his extra points, those field goals early in the game were right down the middle. Didn't look like any issues whatsoever. And then you get to the pressure situations where you're going to take the lead on a longer field goal, and he hooks the one. And sometimes you'll see a kicker overcompensate after missing one like that. And he didn't do that. He just hooked the next one even further. Had to get rid of him. That was much later in his career. And I start to wonder if this is something that's going to linger, not just the lack of confidence from Zach, but the lack of confidence in Evan, from Evan, in his own head.
Yeah, I will see how it all plays out with that. But I mean, he's not going anywhere. At some point, he's just got to right the ship and get through this. But brutal, just brutal. When you consider the comeback that they made, and you get T. Higgins goes off, has a great game in his game bag. I mean, Joe making incredible play after incredible play, just Burrow magic on repeat all night long. He's scrambling out of there. He's stepping into throws. He's just creating stuff. Higgins has 9 for 148. Chase goes 7 for 75 with 2 touchdowns. Burrow's at 356 with 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. Like, they didn't turn it over. They got a turnover and still could not find a way to win. They just don't have it. That's what it is.
Even Chase Brown ran well. I mean, that was the kind of a textbook there, where if it's not there early, stick with it. And he did. The running game was not good early on, but they stuck with it. He popped a couple, and yeah, I mean, Joe took some shots in that game. The roughing the passer with the body weight one, he's going to be feeling that in his ribs for a few days. And there's another one where he took a kind of a sandwich shot where one hit into another. It's got to be frustrating. He's out there, he's taking those kind of hits, still putting up those kind of stats, and then still having to walk into the press conference and talk about another loss. Again, I don't know that his confidence is ever going to go away, but his confidence in this team certainly is dwindling.
No, and that stuff snowballs. That's the dread. These games are won in this league on belief in yourself and your teammates that you're going to find a way to make the play. And we saw the opposite end of the spectrum of this in 2022, where it seemed like no matter what happened in the game, no matter how sideways it went or how much they dominated or anything, you always felt like they were going to find a way. They were inevitable. And this year, they're inevitable too, but in the other way, they'll find a way to blow it. Like, you just feel like, and that resonates inside guys' minds. And here we go again. Like, they can say it all they want, but there's just no hiding it. When you lose like that on repeat, it comes a matter of wondering what's going to be the crazy way that we're going to lose this time. That's it's only human nature to get used to that, and that's that's a scary thought for what comes next. We have a lot. Speaking of what comes next, we have a lot more we're going to dive into in terms of the way that Joe Burrow is playing, what comes next for him, what comes next for this team, what tonight means for the future of people's jobs. There's a lot of that stuff that we're going to get to and dissect as we go forward, and we will do that this week heading into the bye. We still have plenty of shows coming for you, and of course, we will have the Todd Frazier, my favorite game, 2015 home run derby rewatch down at BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks. The panel will start at 7:00 with Todd, so come on down, have some drinks, relive a great moment from JVP, and have some fun. We're going to have a ton of fun with that. I'm really looking forward to it. And of course, make sure you go to CincyShirts.com. Go and pick up all your Cincy gear. Any of your friends or family need some good Cincy gear, there's tons of it there. Anything you could ever want, head to CincyShirts.com. There are Cincinnati's professional football team. You can find shirts there too. There's still home games to come, still plenty of games, and they're technically still alive for the playoffs, but it doesn't feel great. I know, another sad, depressing episode.
Yes,
I can't help it. We can only talk about what happens, and when they're kind of sad and depressing, recapping what happened can be very sad and depressing. I'm sorry. We're trying to be here for you. I'm sorry. There's only so much you can do. It's 4:00 in the morning. My computer's fried over there. Everything's going down. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. All right. On that note, Jay, we're going to end this and see what happens next. So thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will talk to you next time. Have a good one.